The people spoke and I will obey them, the governor said. He took some comfort, though, in the fact that the vote was close and hinted that the struggle for statehood would continue. Going into the balloting, it was clear that the island was closely divided on the issue.
We're American citizens. We have a right to become a state. We should become a state.
The majority of us do not want to be a state. It will be too much problem.
The outcome of the vote will be welcomed by some in Congress, where few were enthusiastic about adding a poor state that could cause a drain on the federal treasury. But at the same time, they did not relish the idea of fighting self-determination. Now they don't have to. Al Dale, ABC News, San Juan, Puerto Rico.
There was a violent encounter on the West Bank. Authorities say a Jewish settler shot at two Arabs who had attacked him with axes. One of the Arabs was killed. The settler was seriously wounded. The attack came just hours before Israel and the PLO were scheduled to resume peace talks in Cairo. And finally, a historic moment in sports. Yesterday, the Miami Dolphins helped coach Don Shula soar above the Eagles and above every other NFL coach in history. Shula's Dolphins defeated Philadelphia's Eagles 19-14. It was Shula's 325th career win as a coach, the most in pro football, one more victory than the late George Halas coached. And let's see, once again, somebody has misplaced the Redskins score here. Charlie.
I knew you were
It happens every Monday.
Did they actually score?
They've lost so many times it's not news anymore, I guess. So Mort doesn't have it right in front of him. Mort, thanks very much.
Okay, welcome out, Spencer.
Thank you.
It is 8 minutes after. Spencer has the weather now.
Okay, well...
Back from Alcatraz.
Back from Alcatraz. Finally, they let me at the pun man of Alcatraz. I can't believe that. Snow.
This is taking a back seat now to damage control. State and federal investigators are looking into allegations. The Whitman campaign tried to suppress the Democratic vote with cash payments to black ministers and Democratic Party workers. And joining us to discuss the continuing controversy from Washington, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Good morning.
And hi, also from WPVI-TV in Philadelphia, Lonnie Guinier, law professor at the University of Pennsylvania and a specialist on voting rights. And good morning.
Good morning to you.
Reverend Jackson, let me start with you because over the weekend, the New Jersey chapter of the NAACP said Mrs. Whitman should not take office until the matter is resolved. Do you agree?
Well, that must be not a matter of very strong consideration. After all, Ed Rollins shot this arrow in the heart of the black church of New Jersey. And then the governor-elect's brother suggested himself something about voter suppression. So we at least want two things. One, a full and thorough investigation so as to clear up the credibility of the ministers involved. And two, a slander suit will be filed against Ed Rollins and the Republican Party. We simply want clarity. The party did do something similar to this in 1981 when they used armed, ununiformed policemen to intimidate the black vote, and there was a suit filed, the consent decree, and the New Jersey Republicans are now operating under that injunction. So what has happened should trigger that injunction to be live as well as a full and thorough investigation.
Professor Guinier, looking at the whole issue here, I mean, what is the main issue? It is the election, or are there other very important questions being raised in all of this?
Well, I think there are certainly legal issues, both potential civil and criminal violations, obviously depending on the facts. And I agree with the Reverend Jackson that a thorough investigation is warranted, especially because this is not the first time that the Republican Party has been accused of very similar efforts to suppress the black vote and to discourage black voters from exercising their franchise, not just in 1981 in New Jersey, but also in 1986 in Louisiana, 1990 in North Carolina. So this, if true, is simply one of the more ingenious methods by the Republican Party to discourage blacks from voting. But I think the larger issue is not just what the Republican Party may be doing, but also the fact that the Democratic candidate did not actively encourage blacks to vote, so that you have a country with one of the worst turnout records of all Western democracies in which neither political party is actively encouraging voter participation based on race.
Reverend Jackson, that's really what I was getting to also, that this points out an overall neglect of black voters by both parties.
Well, you simply have the case of Republicans in this instance seemingly trying to suppress the vote in some way, and too many Democrats trying to distance themselves from the black vote. We know Mavis lost in Mississippi on that basis, and Blanchard lost in Michigan on that basis, and that seems that could be a factor in a low turnout in the case of New Jersey. But I say this relative to Mr. Rollins. If he tried to distribute money and failed, the conspiracy to influence is a criminal violation, so he either will be a very discredited manager or he's on his way to jail.
And Ed Rollins is the one that people seem to be pointing to as being responsible and not Christine Whitman. And we should say we asked her spokespeople to come on the program today and they declined. But are you satisfied? She, I believe, met with you. She seems to be reaching out to the black community. How do you think she's handling this situation?
Well, what was impressive in the meeting is that her willingness to also encourage Attorney General Janet Reno to do the thorough investigation. But because he was her official campaign manager, she can't get but so far away from it. The Republican Party, because of its historical antics, because it is on the court order, and Ed Rollins must be the direct brunt of this investigation, but ultimately, all parties involved must face a serious inquiry before a grand jury.
Looking at it just from a moral point of view, Professor, does it bother you that a lot of people, even in Washington, seem to be focusing not on the moral issue here, but how Ed Rollins was, the quote was, dumb enough to admit it publicly, like it was a campaign error?
Certainly that bothers me. I think it bothers the American people. It contributes to deep cynicism among the electorate that our politicians and our candidates and our political operatives are more preoccupied with discouraging people from participating than with encouraging people to participate in a genuine democratic process.
But what's even more painful is that the ugly scar on the role of the black clergy remains, and that's we should not sell our vote to Republicans, not give it away to Democrats. There's a dignity in our vote. For the right to vote, we marched so much and bled so profusely and died so young. Our vote is non-negotiable, and there are many forces involved in this political process. But to drop this stereotype on the black church is shooting an arrow in our heart. We will not take it lightly, and we're going to fight back because our integrity and our credibility is at stake.
Reverend Jackson, thank you very much. Professor Guinier, thank you.
Thank you.
16 minutes after, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin on the fragile issue of Middle East peace when Good Morning America continues.
18 past the hour now. It has been 2 months since Israelis and Palestinians came together in Washington with the hope of peace. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin is now back in Washington, met with President Clinton on Friday, meets with other U.S. officials today. But first, he is joining us from Washington. Mr. Prime Minister, good to have you back with us.
Good morning. Good to be here.
The U.S. is obviously anxious to further the peace process, particularly with Syria. Politically, do you need some time in Israel for people to come to terms with the Palestinian agreement, or are you ready to press ahead with Syria right now?
Well, what has been done with the Palestinians is unprecedented. Since the creation of the State of Israel, we have never succeeded to have an agreement with the Palestinians. It's a complicated agreement, and therefore, I think the first priority is to focus on its implementation. We have to prove to the world, to ourselves, to the Arab world, that once an agreement is reached, it can be implemented. It doesn't prevent, at the same time, to continue negotiations with the other 3 Arab partners, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon.
In putting the emphasis on implementation of the Palestinian agreement right now, are you saying, in effect, that Israeli citizens do need some time to come to terms with this? Because there are some who feel that there has been a lessening inside your country of public support for the Palestinian agreement.
Well, no doubt, it is a complicated agreement. We are trying to create some sort of a peaceful coexistence in a very interwoven way. It's not like, let's say, the peace with Egypt. We decided about the line. They are on one side, we are on the other side. In this case, the interim agreement tries to create coexistence, and it's not so simple. And it brings about need to find solutions. Today, we have the continuation of the negotiation on the smaller teams in Cairo, not in the limelight of the media. And I believe that through this method of negotiations, we'll succeed to reach an agreement. But there will be ups and downs, there will be many crises, and I see the greatest importance is to achieve this agreement, to translate it into the new realities that it has to create.
Many of the ups and downs obviously involve violence between Israelis and Palestinians. There was particular concern that Mr. Arafat should condemn the recent killing of an Israeli settler. He did so on Saturday. Was that condemnation strong enough to satisfy you?
Well, I believe it was needed to facilitate our possibility to continue talks. We don't take Mr. Arafat to be responsible to the Palestinians who oppose him, oppose the agreement, and use violence and assassination as the main instrument to bring about a sharp reaction on the part of the Israeli side, with the purpose to undermine the agreement and to bring a halt to the negotiations.
Mr. Prime Minister, quick question on the case of Jonathan Pollard, convicted of spying for Israel inside the United States. I know you've asked for a reduction of...
Oh, God, is New York. Good morning, America.
Well, Eugene and Eugene, good morning.
That's right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jen London.
And I'm Charles Gibson. It's good to have you with us on this Monday, November 15th. We are off the bus, albeit briefly, because we're going to take off at the end of the week. We'll tell you about that a little later, but it's nice to be here for a couple of days, get clean laundry, and
Absolutely.
Get ready to move on.
Right now, we're going to talk about sexual harassment. Sometimes it's dirty words, maybe an unwelcome touch. Sometimes it's much more subtle, maybe an innuendo. But any man or woman who has been the target of sexual harassment at work knows what it is and knows just how hostile a job environment can become. Proving it in court, though, is not always so simple. Last week, the Supreme Court made it easier for victims of such harassment to win their lawsuits. And coming up, the woman who took her case to the High Court and who won this landmark decision.
I mentioned further travel that's on the schedule for us. We're going to be going to Puerto Rico to broadcast there on Thursday and Friday. And as you know, Puerto Rico very much in the news right now. We're going to speak in this half hour with the governor of Puerto Rico to get his views on why Puerto Ricans in yesterday's crucial plebiscite narrowly defeated the chance to become America's 51st state. We'll get to that in a moment, but right now we get to the news. And who else to give you that but Morton Dean. Morton.
Gee, Charlie, you didn't invite us to California, and I assume you're not inviting us to Puerto Rico either. Thank you, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. The battle over NAFTA intensifies. President Clinton is talking free trade with leaders of small business organizations this morning. Last night, he invited more than a dozen undecided lawmakers to the White House for dinner and more discussion about NAFTA. NAFTA supporters claim 2 more House members were converted to the cause, but with 2 days before the vote, an ABC News count indicates the president needs about 38 more votes to get NAFTA through the House. 51 members say they're undecided. Puerto Rico will stick with the status quo, at least for now. In a non-binding referendum, 48% of Puerto Rico's residents voted in favor of keeping Puerto Rico as a U.S. Commonwealth. 46% supported statehood and 4% voted for independence. The vote was a defeat for Puerto Rico's governor, who said his fight for statehood is not over. This week, we may get a better idea of how the economy is doing. Here's ABC's Stephen Ogg with his morning economic report.
Good morning. Which way interest rates? Well, that's the key question before members of the Federal Reserve's Open Market Committee when they meet tomorrow. Conventional wisdom is the committee will pretty much leave things as they are.
I expect the Fed to keep policy steady until at least early 1994. I think they'll then gradually allow the federal funds rate, the discount rate, to rise and just hold the economy in a moderate growth phase with inflation around 3%.
The Fed funds rate is the interest rate at which banks borrow from one another. The open question about future Fed policy, though, is inflation. Siders says Fed policymakers have accepted inflation at about 3%.
I think the danger in all of this is that the Fed might decide to push for further disinflation, which would mean trying to force it down to 2 or 1%. I don't think they have the stomach for that.
Siders sees long-term interest rates trending slightly down for the next year, though short-term rates may begin to rise early in 1994. Meanwhile, on the economic calendar this week, tomorrow, industrial production, the output of the nation's factories, mines, and utilities, look for a nice gain. Wednesday, housing starts. The guessing, not much change. On Friday, President Clinton plays host to the first summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. That's a loosely knit group of 15 nations that border on the Pacific Ocean and account for about 40% of the world's trade. They'll discuss a wide range of issues from trade to North Korea's nuclear program. Finally, the Machinists Union broke off talks over the weekend to buy a big chunk of United Airlines. This after the company, against union opposition, sold its flight kitchens, putting in jeopardy possibly 5,200 union jobs. Look for some labor problems at United. Not to look at the economy.
The French abortion pill may be one step closer to the drugstores of America. The developer of RU486 tells Newsweek magazine that he has won an agreement that would allow a group of scientists to make and distribute the pill in the U.S. as soon as it's approved by the government. President Clinton has called on health officials to review the ban on RU486. The cable industry has suffered a setback, if only a minor one. Ratings for cable channel viewing were down slightly in the first 7 weeks of the fall season. It's the first time viewership has fallen since cable began its explosive growth in the mid-1980s. And that's the news, always popular. Here's Spencer with another view of the weather. Spence?
All right, Mort, weather has been a popular topic of conversation lately, especially after this wild weekend we just had, where we had record warmth along the Atlantic coast. Record highs were just falling everywhere. Very wet weather in the upper Midwest. Tornadoes were sighted. Our next report, next hour, Canada's Queen of Pop, Celine Dion. Good Morning America continues.
In the news, the people of Puerto Rico have voted to maintain their Commonwealth relationship with the U.S. rather than apply to become the 51st American state. Yesterday's vote was close. 48% of the Puerto Ricans voted for the Commonwealth, 46% for statehood, 4% voted for independence. The vote was a defeat for Puerto Rico's popular new governor, Pedro Rosselló, who strongly supported the statehood initiative. And Governor Rosselló is joining us this morning from San Juan. Governor, good to have you with us.
Good morning.
You did campaign hard for statehood. Why did you lose?
I campaigned very hard, and in truth, I don't see it as a defeat. We have to see this in a historical perspective. In 1952, the Commonwealth status got 75% of the vote. In 1967, it got 60%, and statehood got 39%, a 21% vote difference. And on this occasion, Commonwealth did get 48%. For the first time, less than half of the population has not voted for Commonwealth. And on the other hand, statehood went up to 46%, a 2% difference. I think the message is clear, and I think it behooves Congress to be ready for a petition for statehood from Puerto Rico in the not-too-distant future.
Well, I understand that statehood did better than in past votes, but you still lost. And I'm wondering, wondering why. There was a feeling that I know on the part of some Puerto Ricans that to apply for statehood might cost them some of their ethnic identity. There was a feeling on the part of some people that the cost of statehood would be too high. Why do you think Commonwealth still got the plurality?
Well, as I say, there's a new generation of Puerto Ricans that are coming into being and are participating in the political process, and the effect, the factor of that new generation was very clear. We made a significant advancement. In this particular time, it was obvious that the Popular Party or Commonwealth Party campaign was one that had some fears in the people of Puerto Rico, saying that if statehood came to Puerto Rico, that would mean very much higher taxes. People would lose their homes. And obviously that's a fear tactic that had some effect. But I think that the major lesson of this plebiscite in Puerto Rico is that the statehood forces, the sentiment to make Puerto Rico the 51st state, have grown immensely, and that before this decade is over, Congress will have before itself a petition for statehood for Puerto Rico.
Those who supported Commonwealth said, look, we have the best of both worlds. We have an independent government, and yet we also get the benefits of U.S. citizenship. Why are they wrong?
They're wrong because if you are a U.S. citizen, you should participate on an equal basis with all the rights and all the responsibilities that U.S. citizenship means. Puerto Ricans do not participate. They have a second-class citizenship because they do not participate in the election of the president. They don't have any delegation with vote in Congress. And in a democracy, that's fundamental. That cannot be the best of two worlds when you have, in a democratic world where more and more nations are going towards democracy, where you have 3.6 million American citizens that are disenfranchised from the political process. I think nobody in his right mind can say that's the best of both worlds.
This is the first vote on this issue in 26 years in Puerto Rico, but I gather you think there'll be another vote rather soon.
I think it's obvious that the current Commonwealth relationship is losing its favor from a very strong support in 1952, where statehood only garnered 12% of the vote, to the present day where it's essentially a dead heat. I think in the next few years, you'll see that new generations of Puerto Ricans come forth and petition for statehood.
Governor Rosselló, appreciate you joining us this morning, and we're going to be joining you on Thursday and Friday, coming down to broadcast from Puerto Rico. Look forward to seeing you when we're there.
We'll be glad to join you on Thursday.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
It is 17 now before the hour. The Supreme Court comes down against sexual harassment. You'll meet the woman behind the headlines when Good Morning America continues here on ABC.
The Supreme Court ruled unanimously last week that a worker who claims she was sexually harassed on the job doesn't necessarily have to show she was psychologically injured by the harassment in order to win her case. You may remember the actual case involved. We spoke with the plaintiff, Teresa Harris, last month. In 1987, she quit her job and filed a sexual harassment complaint against her boss, Charles Hardy, after he made suggestive and demeaning comments he doesn't deny making. But a lower court ruled the behavior was not sexual harassment because Teresa Harris hadn't suffered severe psychological injury as a result. Last week's decision overturns that ruling. And this morning, Teresa Harris joins us again. Nice to have you here. Congratulations. This has been, though, a long and sometimes bitter battle for you. What did you think? How did you feel when you heard about this ruling?
Naturally, I was very excited about it. I was happy that it was finally over.
And kind of vindicated?
Well, yeah, actually.
The last time we spoke, it seemed that you were, well, nervous. You were optimistic. You just seemed to be confident that justice would prevail. Have you kept that feeling all the way along?
Always. Always I have.
Let me take you back, even though we've discussed this before, but let me take you back. You were working, I think it was as a rental manager in a forklift company, if I've got that right. What are some of the things that Mr. Hardy said? By the way, I should say that he hasn't denied any of these, but what are some of the kinds of things that he said to you?
He asked the women, employees, to retrieve coins from his pocket, talked about our anatomy, and said that he needed a man to do my job.
Now, what did you feel when the court said, well, did this impair you from doing your work or severely psychologically impact on you? Did you feel that that had anything to do with whether or not what he had done was correct?
No, not at all. I don't believe that you should have to be psychologically impaired in order to prevail in a sexual harassment lawsuit.
What happens now?
We are remanded to the lower court, and the Sixth Circuit will take the facts of the case and disallow psychological injury and make a determination.
So while you won this battle, you still have the overall battle to win.
Exactly.
What do you think the message is from the Supreme Court? And do you think that it has anything to do, this is Sandra Day O'Connor, I believe, that came down with this ruling, the fact that there are two women on the court now, that they ruled this way?
I really don't think the fact that there were two women on the court really played any role at all, actually.
Because it was a unanimous decision.
Yeah.
What do you think the message is, though, now to employers out there in America who have women employees?
Well, I think we're going to focus on the behavior of the harasser rather than the reaction of the employee, which is exactly where it should be.
Once again, not on the victim, but
exactly on the conduct, on the behavior.
All right. Well, we will be watching this case. Teresa Harris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's 48 minutes after with a song in our hearts. Memories of last week's California bus trip when Good Morning America continues after this from Dreyfus.
You to be a divorce.
CBS said no, there is nothing funny about divorce.
But it was real.
It was real, but it was not funny. You couldn't make fun of it. And not only that, they said they think you were divorced from Dick Van Dyke.
You girls certainly do manage to find quaint ways to fill your evening.
Yeah, well, the chain is broken on Rhoda's bike.
Oh, too much weight, I guess.
Even though the critics loved it, the program did not click immediately with viewers.
It took a full season and a summer of reruns before the audience said, oh yes, I like these people. I think I'd like to know them better.
Once the audience did get to know these people, they fell in love with them. And that was the key to MTM's success. Mary, not afraid to let others get the laughs, surrounded by a group of well-written characters, played by an ensemble cast that was nothing short of a dream team.
It is so hard for me to tell you this. What is it you can tell me? What? I'm extremely contagious.
Ted Baxter reunites boy with puppy. Right on the news.
Where are you going to find the puppy?
Well, steal it from a kid.
Duane, in case you've forgotten, you are single also.
Oh, yes, but that's only because I don't happen to place my love life above my profession.
I thought that was your profession.
I felt the chemistry between the people, even around a big table, was extraordinary. But listen, if you can sit here and look across at Mary Tyler Moore 5 days a week and just listen to her and get paid for it, you pinch yourself all the time. She was the greatest leader I ever had in an ensemble piece.
Now, when you see the Mary Tyler Moore Show, various episodes, what do you see? What do you see on that screen?
I just relax and enjoy it. I just think it's wonderful, in spite of the ridiculous hair that you could hang clothes from, and the boots and the short dresses and the long dresses and all those dating fashions that we went through. And I just see the essence, the heart and soul of people relating to each other, and of course the brilliant comedy and performances of that comedy.
A long way to Tipperary.
You know, Mary, all of the fans, we were sitting out there in television land watching you on that last episode, turn the lights off, as you walked out of the TV studio. As you were doing it, what were you thinking about?
It's the same thing that I'm feeling right now. Just a real clenched, oh boy, this is a very special thing. And we're going to have to say goodbye.
It was a very special thing. Viewers haven't quite said goodbye to the Mary Tyler Moore Show. It's a staple on Nick at Night. And of course, Gavin McLeod, by way of the Love Boat, is spokesman for Princess Cruises. Always wanted to say, oh, Lou. Remember how Ted Baxter used to do that? He was so good. He was just the best. Now, coming up tomorrow, we'll have All in the Family, talking with Gene Stapleton, also Carol O'Connor. Wednesday, I sat down and spoke with Davy Jones from the Monkees. Then the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then finishing up on Friday. It always seems like it was Thanksgiving on this show. The Waltons.
What a great show. They have a reunion movie coming up.
Where's that going to be?
On
CBS.
Goodies, TV goodies. 5 minutes before the hour. Stay with us.
Allegations of sexual abuse by a priest. This time the accused is a powerful and respected cardinal from Chicago.
Also ahead in our second hour this morning, a singer Celine Dion is going to be with us. Also, you're going to meet a couple who stopped in the middle of the New York Marathon yesterday. Why did they stop? To get married, of course, and then they ran on.
Doesn't everyone?
They exchanged their vows during the New York City Marathon. You'll meet them, and we'll have an expert on addiction explaining how easy it would be for Michael Jackson, and anyone else for that matter, to get hooked on prescription painkillers.
We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Travel provided by Continental, now offering business first.
And good morning, America. Happy Monday to you. I'm Charles Gibson.
And I'm Joan Lennon. It is Monday. It is November 15th. And he is the highest Catholic Church official ever linked to allegations of sexual abuse, Chicago's Cardinal Joseph Bernardin. And whether they're true or not, the charges have been made. His accuser, a 34-year-old man, says it happened 17 years ago, and he has filed a lawsuit.
It comes at a terrible time for the church, which, of course, is grappling with the thorny issue of sexual abuse by priests. And the question is, what should the church do about allegations against a cardinal? So ahead this morning, we'll have a closer look at the church's dilemma, how to balance the rights of alleged victims and the rights of the accused. We're going to turn now to Spencer. He has the morning's weather forecast. It's nice to actually be working in the same place you are.
It really, well, thank you. Well, you know, last week our regular weather wizard was on the Traveling Roadshow, and things got all out of whack, but I'm back today to straighten things out. We're going to take a look ahead at the week's weather. Things were a little crazy over the weekend, so we'll give you a look at the entire week coming up in this half hour.
You mean you don't think Morton's forecasts were
back?
Just kidding.
Also in honor of National Geography Week, Charlie has agreed, I think, to take our geography editor's test. Harm DeBlay is going to give his first annual geography quiz. You ready?
Just make sure your answers are in the form of a question, right? Anyway, Harm will be here to give me a quiz on the occasion of National Geography Week. But let's go to Morton Dean with the news of the morning. Morton.
Frankly, Spencer, it wasn't all that difficult. Good morning, everyone. Both sides in the NAFTA debate are counting the hours and the votes. The House vote on the North American Free Trade Agreement is Wednesday. NAFTA opponents say NAFTA is dead. The White House says not so. There was a dinner at the White House last night, and guess what? The invited guests were members of Congress who say they have not made up their minds yet. ABC's Ann Compton is covering the story.
More than a dozen undecided members of Congress were ushered in for a cozy White House sales pitch on NAFTA.
He'll do his best to talk to all of us and be as persuasive as he can, and then we'll just have to make a judgment.
What do you think?
It's going to be a very close vote, I think. It's going to be a cliffhanger.
The White House dinner was described by one participant as a classy job of persuasion, netting at least 2 converts on the spot. Ringleaders of the president's lobbying effort did confess after dinner the odds are daunting.
I think tonight was important. I know of 2 votes that we picked up. We've got momentum. We're still behind. It's going to be a horse race. It's now hand-to-hand combat for every undecided member. There's about 35 left. We need about 20 more to win. It could go either way.
Earlier in the day, opponents of NAFTA were confident they have far more votes locked in than the president has.
We're at about 222 firm, we believe, right now. We have some leaning in our direction. We believe the president and his supporters are somewhat behind that, and we look forward to a victory on Wednesday.
Because Congressman Bonnier is usually the president's chief nose counter, he's working against the president now. Mr. Clinton can look forward to working this week with a rare coalition of Democrats and Republicans, a whip operation, a caucus operation on Capitol Hill, looking for NAFTA votes. Mort?
And the president has not been known as someone who could play hardball with issues in Washington. Has he changed? Is there evidence that he has changed on this issue?
Well, I think actually he's sweetened the deals for those that he can get on his side. Ironically, he has tried to offer some kind of comfort to Republicans who vote for NAFTA, that he won't use that as a campaign argument against them during the congressional elections next year. If anything, the president has been more accommodating, more bipartisan than partisan.
Okay, thank you. Ann Compton reporting from the White House. Many undecided lawmakers were home over the weekend talking with constituents about NAFTA. ABC's Ron Claiborne reports on one who is still undecided and another who moved off the fence.
I want to go on record today as officially supporting the North American Free Trade Agreement.
After wavering for weeks, Congresswoman Maria Cantwell finally came out in favor of NAFTA, one more critical vote in President Clinton's column.
I guess in the end I felt very comfortable that this agreement was a net job gain for us in the 1st District and the United States.
Right up until the last moment, Cantwell had been under heavy pressure from many of her own constituents opposed to NAFTA.
I voted for you last time. But if you vote for NAFTA, not only will I vote against you, I would probably help anybody to campaign against you.
While Cantwell was making up her mind, Congressman Jim McDermott from another Seattle district was still sitting squarely on the fence.
It's the old joke about some of my friends are for it and some are against it. I'm with my friends, and that's why it's a tough decision.
Especially tough for McDermott and Cantwell because of Ross Perot. Last year, Perot, who opposes NAFTA, ran strongly in both of their districts. Not coincidentally, Perot was in Seattle yesterday, railing against the free trade agreements and those who support it.
Make sure they get the message never to even think about destroying the jobs in this country, and if they do, millions of us will remember in November.
In a state where Perot got 1 out of every 4 votes, his threats against pro-NAFTA lawmakers are indeed credible. But so far, only one of Washington's 9 House members has come out against the agreement. Ron Claiborne, ABC News, Seattle.
The status of Puerto Rico will be the status quo. In a non-binding referendum yesterday, voters chose to remain a commonwealth instead of trying to become the 51st state or an independent nation. ABC's Al Dale is in San Juan. Good morning, Al.
Good morning, Mort.
Well, the vote was, I'm sorry to interrupt, the vote was close, and I guess that's significant.
It was close. I'm at the governor's residence here. He is putting a rather positive spin on the results of yesterday, even though his party did lose by about 2 percentage points, 46% to 48. They did lose, but they say, let's look at history. We got closer this time than we ever have before, and the historic momentum is with us, and that within this decade, perhaps, a petition for citizenship, or rather for statehood, will be presented in Washington. The party that came in third, the Independence Party, is even seeing some victory in the results yesterday, though. They only got about 4% of the vote, but they say we won, kind of, because we kept the other two votes, the other two parties from getting a majority. And the party that did win will be going to Washington to try to work out a better deal for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico.
Right, okay, thank you very much. Al Dale reporting live from Puerto Rico this morning. In downtown Los Angeles, a pre-dawn fire, an apartment house on fire. A fire that officials say was deliberately set. At least 4 people were killed, 19 others injured. Many of those rescued by firefighters were terrified children. Here's a look at some of the events making news in the day ahead. The federal government chooses the first educational institutions to participate in a new program where student loans will be handled by schools rather than by banks. The UN's World Health Organization issues a report that's expected to criticize the worldwide response to an outbreak of tuberculosis. On Long Island, New York, sentencing day for Joey Buttafuoco, who pleaded guilty to having sex with a minor, Amy Fisher. And tonight, Day One looks into a mysterious fog that's been linked to a series of deadly car crashes in Tennessee. That's on Day One at 8 Eastern Time. And now the weather, it'll be sunny in the east. Temperatures will be, oh, that's right, Spencer's back.
I'm back. Mort,
I got used to it.
You did an outstanding job last week, and you had me shaking in my snowshoes out there, so I came back quickly.
Well, I hear the money's good.
You got him good,
Don't
Mort.
believe everything you hear.
But right now, Spencer Christian does have this week's weather.
Well,
Spencer.
fresh from Mort's desk, I have these maps drawn for you. Let me go over and show you what Mort has cooked up for us today. High temperatures, I'm told by Mort, will still be in the record warm range over in the East Coast. The highs in the 70s and 80s. In fact, in New York City this morning at 5:30 a.m.
Committed by priests have caused a great deal of anguish and soul-searching in the Catholic community. And now another bombshell. Cardinal Joseph Bernardin of Chicago was known as a leader in the fight against sexual abuse in the church. But last Friday, in an ironic and disturbing turn of events, a 34-year-old man named Stephen Cook filed suit in federal court accusing Bernardin of sexually abusing him almost 20 years ago when he was a teenager in a high school program in a Cincinnati seminary. In a press conference, Bernardin denied all charges.
I'm not really concerned about myself. I know that I am innocent. As I said, my life has been an open book. People know me. I know that the allegations are totally false.
Joining us now to consider the Bernardin case is Jason Berry, author of Lead Us Not Into Temptation, an investigation of sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. He comes to us from station WVUE in New Orleans. And from Washington, Bishop John Kenny, head of the National Conference of Catholic Bishops Ad Hoc Committee on Sexual Abuse. And good morning to both of you gentlemen.
Good morning, Joan.
Bishop Kenny, you know Cardinal Bernardin very well. What is your reaction to these charges?
Joan, I have known Cardinal Bernardin for 20 years plus, and I know him as an honest man, as a very forthright man, as a very strong man. And when he stands before the people of his archdiocese and the people of our country on television and says that he is innocent of these allegations, I believe him.
Jason, I know that you've reviewed this, I think it's a 21-page complaint against Bernardin. Do you see in there evidence that is going to support, or is this just one person's word?
Well, I think it's more than that. The delayed memory question, of course, will be front and center in the court struggle, but the complaint alleges that documents were destroyed by the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. No lawyer would make a charge like that unless he already has inside information by which he could support it. I would add, too, that the idea that this young man has done something terribly wrong by filing this lawsuit is, in essence, a prejudgment of him. I'm not saying that Bishop Kenny said that, but I think we have to have an open mind about the plaintiff as well as the defendant.
Well, Bishop Kenny, I know you obviously feel that there's no basis to these charges. And let us assume there are no basis to the charges. Then how does the cardinal go about clearing his name once these kind of charges are made?
That's where I believe it's extremely important that we get at the truth, and I believe that the truth will set us all free. It's extremally important for us in the church and for our people to know the confidence that we need to have in our church leaders. And so whatever way that we can to make sure that we believe the cardinal and that we treat very seriously and very openly the allegations of the victim are very important for all of us.
Bishop Kenny, you know that this case is getting a lot of attention because it comes in the wake of so many other allegations and charges and suits. Is it not also partly to blame, the Catholic Church is partly to blame because of the fact that they have just neglected this issue for so long?
Well, I disagree with the term neglect. The Catholic Church has not neglected this issue. We've been working on this for 10 years plus in our bishops' conference and in local dioceses. Bishops and local dioceses are doing tremendously good work, and I think we need to get that word out in terms of care for victims and in how policies are being developed and how priests are being treated. If there's a fault, it's that we've been too quiet in the way that we have addressed this issue.
Well, Jason Berry, how do you think that they've been dealing with it of late?
Well, with all deference to Bishop Kenny, I don't agree with that at all. This has been one dirty cover-up after another laced out across the map of the church. You know, if you look at Chicago and what has happened there, the Cardinal has been touted in the media as a great reform figure in this area of child abuse. In fact, the Reform Commission that he has put forth has had victims who have gone to it claiming abuse. They've been treated in a way that has left them feeling very bitter. I know this from talking to people myself. It's also important to note that the lawyers, the defense lawyers in Chicago, have been milking the Church of attorneys' fees. The Catholic Church in Chicago is hemorrhaging money at a rate of $1 million to $2 million a year. This is a matter of public record. And they filed defamation suits against people who claim their kids were abused. This is not something that the church wants to publicize and put forth. I think there is still a lot of house cleaning to do.
Bishop, what is your reaction to what Jason
I
Berry
deny the cover-up. The church has not been a part of a cover-up. I also look to the Archdiocese of Chicago as a very strong program as far as how to deal with victims and with the people who have abused. The whole question of countersuits, I think, is a very serious issue because I do not want to take away from anyone the right to defend their good name. At the same time, I do not favor going after victims or victims' families. Sometimes I think perhaps we ought to see if countersuits shouldn't be against the attorneys who are accepting cases that perhaps have no basis in fact.
Bishop, go ahead.
May I
quickly,
say something about that? Yes, James Saratella, the attorney for the Chicago Archdiocese, said to a room full of clergy and religious in 1986, when one of these suits arises, those people, meaning the family, are the enemy, and I'm on your side. A room full of people heard him say that. When I asked Cardinal Bernardine about that, in the long interview I did with him for the last chapter of my book, he said that Saratella hadn't said it. Well, what is truth? If the truth is going to set us free, then why don't we be truthful?
I believe the church is being truthful.
And I got to jump out here, but thank you both very much. Bishop, thank you. Jason Berry, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in just a moment. Chicago's Cardinal Joseph Bernardine in Washington for a Catholic conference again denied accusations he sexually abused a seminary student as long as 18 years ago. Bernardine is not the first cleric accused, but he is the highest ranking. Bishop John Kinney chairs the Bishops' Committee on Sex Abuse. He joins us from the conference. And in our Washington bureau is Barbara Blaine, founder of a group called SNAP for Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. Good morning to the both of you.
Good morning, Hattie.
First, Bishop Kinney, these charges of sex abuse are filed against one of the most influential members of the Catholic Church, and they come on the heels of a multi-million-dollar settlement. How can the Church recover from these high-profile cases?
First, let me say that I know Cardinal Bernardine for over 20 years, and I respect and admire him. I know him as an honest man and as a very forthright man, and I do not believe the allegations. When he stands before the people of his archdiocese in the country and says that he is innocent, I believe him.
And yet, these charges must be the #1 topic of conversation at the conference. Do you foresee the Church changing the way it handles these charges?
The committee that I chair obviously will make recommendations to the bishops for how we can most effectively deal in our dioceses with charges of sexual abuse. Much is going on at the moment by bishops and in local dioceses to pastorally and justly address these issues. First of all, as far as the victims are concerned, then as far as the priests, parishes, and people are concerned. I believe that one of the challenges that we face is making sure that we get the story of how well the Church is addressing this issue out to all of our people.
Now, Barbara, your victims group met with the committee dealing with sex abuse in the church. Are you satisfied with the steps the church is taking?
Well, we certainly see a different attitude emerging, but at the same time, while we see the church reaching out in ways with what they're saying, we're not seeing any difference by what the victims are coming forward with. So we're looking for a difference in the action, not in the words.
You've complained that the church spends more time getting treatment for the priests and not treatment for the victims.
Well, that's what it seems to us. So we're asking the bishops to make victims be their priority, and that's what we asked Bishop Kinney's committee on Saturday.
Can you tell me what happened in your case? You were abused when you were 7th or 8th grade?
The abuse began in the summer between 7th and 8th grade by the assistant pastor in Toledo, Father Warren, and he abused me until I was 17. And when I went to the Church for Healing, I couldn't find it, so I started looking for other victims. And we formed this organization, SNAP, and that's where we're finding help and healing. In many ways, we're doing for each other what the church isn't doing for us.
And I was surprised to learn that you have a large membership in that organization, SNAP. Bishop Kinney, some have suggested that the answer is to do away with the oath of celibacy. Let priests marry the way ministers do. Do you think the church will ever come to that?
First of all, let me say that our committee and the Catholic Conference of Bishops stands firmly with victims, so the dialogue that is taking place with SNAP is extremely important. No, this is not connected to the celibacy question. Unfortunately, the whole question of sexual abuse crosses every boundary and every line of demarcation. So it has nothing to do with marriage versus celibacy. It has to do with an illness in specific people.
There's been such an outpouring of support for Cardinal Bernardin. Are you at all concerned about false accusations that priests are open to right now?
I am very concerned about the whole question of false accusations and allegations. We need to know the truth. The people need to know the truth about the allegation. The fact that an allegation is made does not mean that the person is guilty. So I'm very concerned about the good name of everyone involved.
Bishop Kinney?
Be that the cardinal, be that the person who comes forward.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Bishop Kinney, Barbara Blaine.
I'm Joan London.
And I'm Charles Gibson. Good to have you with us. Monday, November 15th, and just so that we can feel natural, we have the buses parked outside. As soon as the show's over, we're going to jump on the buses, drive around the block, and we'll be back here again tomorrow. But we do have a few days in New York. We had a good time out in California.
Absolutely.
Most of the comments I got over the weekend were very good. People seem to like the pictures. It is so pretty out there.
And we have a wonderful singer coming up today in this half hour, Celine Dion.
What does that have to do with the bus trip?
It has to do with this half hour, because I'm moving us along.
You're changing the subject. I see. Okay, go ahead.
Celine Dion previews the follow-up, actually, to her breakthrough multi-platinum American album. Now, the industry buzz suggests that this French-Canadian singer's finest English-language release yet, which is really saying something if you're one of the millions of music fans who love the Grammy-winning duet on Beauty and the Beast. I was always curious that she learned to sing in English before she learned to speak English.
She'll be here. Also, we're going to talk about the fact that there's more sad news for the fans of Michael Jackson. Over the weekend, the singer, as you know, cut short his world tour to deal with the growing dependence on painkillers. Now, there's so much that's unknown about the Michael Jackson case, and we can't presume to know it, but we did get talking over the weekend about how so many people, particularly in show business, tend to get addicted to painkillers. And so in this half hour, we'll find out how celebrities do deal with the hazards of addiction and how easily they do get addicted and why. And you'll also meet a couple who got married on the run yesterday. They tied the knot during the New York City Marathon, and they were competing in it. We'll explain in a few moments, but right now, Morton Dean with the news. Morton.
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning again, everyone. NAFTA these days could stand for nervous arm twisting from the administration. 2 days to go before the House vote, and based on what lawmakers tell ABC News, the White House is 38 votes shy of the number needed to approve the agreement. 51 House members say they're undecided. NAFTA supporters claim 2 more members were convinced to back NAFTA after being wined and dined at the White House for some undecideds last night, a dinner for some undecideds. President Clinton is lobbying business leaders this morning. By a narrow margin, Puerto Rican voters have decided to keep the island what it is now, a commonwealth. 48% of the voters supported the status quo during yesterday's non-binding referendum. 46% voted to seek statehood, and only 4% said Puerto Rico should become independent. In the Mideast, the new reality and the old reality are competing for the headlines once again. A new round of Israeli PLO peace talks is getting underway in Cairo today, a day in which more blood was shed on the West Bank. The details from ABC's Dean Reynolds in Israel.
As a wounded Jewish settler was carried into a hospital this morning, Israeli soldiers were rounding up Palestinians suspected of attacking him in the West Bank city of Hebron. The settler shot and killed one of his assailants before an accomplice managed to steal his rifle. The incident is the latest in a series of attacks on Jews, which have led to indiscriminate settler reprisals against Palestinians. Over the weekend, settlers were observed setting fire to a Palestinian home, long before the army showed up to stop them and the cameras recording the scene. The fact that Yasser Arafat's own supporters stand accused in some of the violence is threatening to undermine the Israeli PLO accord. No matter that Arafat condemns the violence, his ability to control his followers, much less Muslim militants who reject his leadership, is being called into question.
It's not enough that the PLO condemn terror. They have to struggle very fiercely, very practically against terror.
If they cannot deliver the goods, it's an ominous precedent.
And it makes it politically risky, if not impossible, for Prime Minister Rabin to make any more concessions to the Palestinians, even though most of them favor the peace process. The negotiations on autonomy for the Gaza Strip and Jericho resumed today in Cairo, with the PLO demanding an Israeli promise to release more Palestinians from its prisons. But in the current climate of violence and mutual suspicion, an Israeli gesture like that is very unlikely. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
It's a nervous morning in Parkfield, California. Yesterday, after a series of minor tremors, the U.S. Geological Survey issued a rare alert, a quake alert for the town. Parkfield is 170 miles southeast of San Francisco. It sits on the dreaded San Andreas Fault. The prediction is a possible major earthquake, perhaps within the next 3 days. The computer is mightier than the pencil. The Educational Testing Service reportedly will introduce a computerized version of the Graduate Record Examination, the GRE, as it's known. That's the test to get into graduate school. The testing service is expected to follow that with a computerized version of the SATs that high school students take to get into college. And that's the news on the half hour. And here's Spencer with another look at the weather. Spence?
Okay, Mort, a rather chilly day shaping up.
Recovery, the name of Michael Jackson. Over the weekend, as you know, the musical superstar cut short his current world tour, citing a dependence on prescription painkillers, aggravated by worries over the recent child abuse allegations leveled against him. So joining us to discuss some of the causes of this kind of chemical dependence and methods for their cure is John Schwartzlos. He is president of the Betty Ford Center. He is in Palm Springs, California at KESQ TV. John, I appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Charlie.
When a star is facing problems and all of a sudden cites some sort of addiction and disappears, people tend to get skeptical, and I think particularly so with painkillers. Is it easy to get addicted to these things?
Absolutely. Painkillers, most of which are from the opiate drug family, have a high potential for addiction, and so it can happen to anyone, whether you're a celebrity or not.
Well, the really strong ones are the opiates, and I guess that has an opium base, right?
Yes.
But most people get put off into barbiturates, which are slightly weaker drugs, don't they?
Well, they do. It's much like what happens in a hospital after surgery. You first are put on an opiate drug or synthetic opiate, and then doctors attempt to move you to a different class and a less addicting class. Sometimes when pain lingers, when other discomfort goes on, people turn to the barbiturate category, and those have also a high potential for addiction, and often will be taken if a person's under extra stress.
But, John, doctors know they're addictive. They know whereof you speak now. So why do they continue to prescribe them? Well,
most physicians are very careful about the use of addicting drugs, and again, that is why the attempt is to get us onto other drugs as quickly as possible. But there's another thing going on when we talk about celebrities, and I think about it in the Elvis Presley kind of case, is who's going to say no to a celebrity? And that's what often happens in an attempt to pander them, to do anything that we can. We don't say no when we should.
Am I correct, then, in my perception, that there's a higher incidence of this kind of addiction with celebrities than with the normal folk?
Well, we see a lot of addiction among any kind of person that's in the public eye. It's interesting when you talk about celebrities to also talk about physicians, clergy, ministers, people that the public often holds up are often groups that have a very high rate of addiction. Often we say, well, those are people we turn to as the public, but who do they turn to when they need help? And so those groups, like celebrities, seem to have a high rate of addiction.
Well, that's interesting. You're saying that it's not just celebs. It's anybody who really sort of fits in the category of role model and who feels pressure because of that.
Absolutely. And then when any human being who has stress at a particular part of their life will tend to use anything to give them comfort from that stress.
You deal with this all the time. Can you, and I hate to use the word cure, but can you break that addiction readily? Because the celebrity, the star, goes right back to that kind of pressure, it seems to me, when they come out. Mr. Jackson is going to certainly have a lot of pressure when he comes out of this. Can you prevent them from coming back to that addiction?
Well, we can't prevent it. The best chance for recovery, and indeed the folks who go to places like Betty Ford Center who do well, are ones who truly believe that they have an addiction, that they have an illness that is not going to go away. And what works, Charlie, is when we get people, men and women, in that kind of role, hooked up with other men and women in recovery so that they have other people they can lean on. And that seems to work the best.
John Schwartzlaff, appreciate you being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's now 17 before the hour. When we come back, a couple who raced to get married during the New York Marathon when Good Morning America continues.
Fans want to know is what's going on with Bolton and former Knots Landing star Nicolette Sheridan. They've been an item for some time, but it's a subject the Popmeister would love to skip.
I'm trying to have one area of my life that's private. And
So in other words...
you want to just dive right in, don't you?
Well, I'm just
and
curious.
you ask so nicely, and you're smiling, sweet, and everything.
What's the story?
There goes that. Oh, okay.
Are you engaged? We need to know.
I did hear something like that. We're not engaged.
Okay.
There's no discussion of marriage. The problem is that not only is it not true, but I start receiving fan mail like crazy if people want to know where to send big gifts.
Well, save your money, folks, because we just got word that he and Nicolette decided to split up. Free man again.
We can put an APB out on the rest of Nicolette's dress.
They're still looking for it.
But I guess that's the way she likes it. KC's back in just a moment. KC and the Sunshine Band.
You've heard of couples who just ran off and got married? Well, this morning we're going to introduce you to a pair of newlyweds who've given new meaning to this approach. Yesterday, Tom and Pam Young took 10 or 12 minutes off valuable race time to exchange wedding vows at the 8-mile mark of the New York Marathon. Thankfully, they did not have to drag tin cans for the rest of the race, but they did manage to cross the finish line together with a quite respectable time, actually, of just under 3 hours and 42 minutes. And after all that, the marriage itself should be a breeze, I guess. The happy couple, who are actually from Chicago, Tom and Pam. Nice to have you with us. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who came up with this idea? I heard it was you, Pam. Is that
That's
true?
what Tom keeps saying, yeah.
Did anybody who attended the wedding have to run along with you, or could they cheat and just stop at the 8-mile mark, and even your families, etc.?
Well, the families, we arranged for a van to take them there, but the wedding party, everybody ran with us.
Oh, is that right?
And the whole wedding party finished the marathon.
Oh, is that great?
Well, I can just see you saying, my time would have been much better, but I had to get married.
Well, that's what we've been saying ever since.
So it was 3 hours 42. You stopped for 12 minutes?
It ended up being 12 or 13 minutes.
So when you tell people, are you going to tell them actually 3:42, or are you going to say it was really 3:30?
Well, we've been actually trimming more time than that.
I just want to know something. What did your parents think when you first told them you were going to do this?
Mine were a little bit surprised. They expected something a little more traditional, but as time went on and they knew this was something we really wanted to do, they became very excited for us about it.
Now, the picture was of you in the top hat and a coat, and you had a veil. You didn't run in the veil, did you?
I ran the whole way in the veil.
He ran in that veil.
Is that it right there?
This is the veil.
Did you have like 100 bobby pins in your hair? So how did you keep
We had about 10 or 12 bobby pins. I had extra combs put on this veil so it would stay, but that didn't do the job, so we had the combs bobby pinned as well.
Did you walk into the bridal shop and say, I need a sweat-resistant veil?
No, not really. I just told them I needed a short net in the back so it didn't drag down to the ground.
But you didn't wear a full cutaway or formal shoes. I hope you got married in sneakers.
Should we tell the truth, though? She did wear a little leotard thing, the white thing, which when she needed to stop for one of those necessary stops that you made, she found that she took a little longer to get in and out. And it also slowed up their time. You waited, too, right? Did you wait?
I actually had to dash into the room and help her get it back on.
I hope that was after the 8-mile mark.
It was.
So that also shaped
that wasn't a break to consummate the marriage, I hope. It was a break to, well, whatever, sorry.
Charlie. He just had to do it because he's just such a little brat. Oh, are you guys going on a honeymoon?
Virgin Islands.
And they had a little party last night.
You did?
Yeah.
I would think everybody would have been too exhausted to party.
We had a little party at our hotel.
What time did we get done? Maybe
12 o'clock, I think.
Night
party?
Yeah.
And then we got him up early this morning.
For this show.
I hope the rest of your marriage is much quieter.
Exactly.
Congratulations to you, too.
Well,
Absolute best to you. Congratulations. That's terrific.
We'll be back in just a moment.
Little blast from the past. Get down this morning. Casey and the Sunshine Band, thanks so much for coming in and getting our motors running this early in the morning. Good to see you all. We'll be back in a moment. This is Today on NBC.
My work is to be able to sing my songs the best that I can and to put as much emotion as I can. But this is the best part. This is, I would say, the easiest part when I sing. But there's work just before that. There's work between all the stage performances.
I've told people that you learn to sing in English before you learn to speak English. That is true, right?
Well, yes, it's true. It's easier to sing than to speak, because I remember when I was 14 and 15 years old, I was singing in English. I remember a song, What a Feeling, from the movie Flashdance, and I didn't understand a word from what I was singing at that time. And I was telling to my manager and all my friends and my family, I said, I want to sing in French and in English, and I would love to have an international career. And my manager told me one day, he said, if you sing in English, you have to be able to understand. And about 5 years and a half, 6 years ago, I went to school, and I learned English because I couldn't speak a word 6 years ago.
I read somewhere she took 2 months to learn English.
Yes.
Did you really learn English in that amount of time?
Yes, yes. It was hard. It was hard
study.
work. Yes, it's a good school. It's a Berlitz school in Montreal. When I say 2 months, it's really 2 months every day, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. It's hard work.
You were really
I wanted to. Nothing is easy, but when you want something, I guess it gets easier.
The title song, Color of My Love, the title song is, I'm told, very special to you. Why?
The Color of My Love?
Yeah, The Color of My Love.
Actually, it's a song that was written by David Foster, especially for his wedding with Linda Thompson. And everybody wanted to sing that song.
Yeah.
And I said, David, I love that song so much. And he gave it to me. And I said it deserved the title of the album. I think it's my forever, I call it my forever song.
Your forever song.
Oh, yeah.
And you're singing now, is it not necessarily now singing in the second language? Do you feel like does it still feel like a second language to you, English?
No, actually, I don't think...
That's great.
I never felt that way. I never felt that way. I always had a lot of feeling when I was singing in English. I think English is the language of the music.
Well, I like the new album. Again, it's called The Color of My Love. Celine Dion, nice to have you back with us.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
We'll be back in just a moment.
At 5 a.m., all the Millers can think about is that first get-you-going cup of coffee. That eye-opening, fill-the-kitchen aroma of Folgers crystals. It all begins with mountain-grown beans, fresh brewed, then crystallized, for a deep, dark, rich coffee just waiting to become your welcome to the day. There's no other coffee that kicks off the Miller's morning like Folgers crystals.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'd love to say right now 3 or 4 of the designers that we carry, but then you wouldn't be able to save the money that you can save by shopping at the Men's Warehouse. We have an arrangement with the manufacturers. We will not mention their names on television. You have to come into a Men's Warehouse store and see for yourself. And quite frankly, when you're in a store for 1 minute, you'll recognize the brands and you'll understand the savings that's hanging on the rack. I guarantee it.
The Men's Warehouse. Call 1-800-776-SUIT.
Hey, over here. You know, sometimes statistics don't say much. But when you're talking 800,000 Mercury Sable owners, that's saying something. Like Sable is a design leader. People expect features like dual airbags, anti-lock brakes, V6 power, and a long list of comforts. But even an impressive statistic like myself can't show you Sable's smooth, comfortable ride. For that, you'll have to test drive one yourself. See your Lincoln Mercury dealer today.
Win the use of this Eagle Vision for a year by entering our AM Northwest Name That Baby contest.
This week we'll...